China is genocide.
Yeah.
It's horrific what he's doing out there. Those poor people. Tibet, it's a horrible situation. And if you believe in freedom or your dissent against the communist Chinese party, like what happened in Hong Kong, look at the consequences that happens in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Do you think it's too late to stop China, or is that too big?
You have to. We have no choice. And I know you guys are stepping up, going to nuclear submarines.
Yeah.
You know what could happen, and you want to send a clear message not to mess with them, because he doesn't really like Australia staying up to him. He wants to bully Australia.
Yeah.
What I was looking. So I hope Australians keep on. And I saw a documentary how Australia's kind of divided. But what would the U.S., Australia, and our allies do if we invade Taiwan?
Yeah.
That's a good question. What are we doing with Ukraine now? We're helping them, but Taiwan's a very small island, right?
Yeah.
China's a big monster.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? I don't know.
I think that'll be the decider. What will happen with the world?
I mean, we want to support them. They've been a democracy for at least 70 years since Mao Zedong took over China back in the late 40s, right? Chiang Kai-shek left to Taiwan. It's a difficult situation. I think China's a big bully, but they're corrupt.
Yeah.
I think communism is a failure. I mean, my family escaped communism. My grandparents were Spanish, came to Cuba. They were very successful, but you have Fidel Castro, right? And you have Che Guevara, and the communists took over. They nationalized. I mean, I wrote a book about this, which is pretty fascinating, called Castro and the Mob, right? I don't know how much your audience knows about the Italian mafia and Castro, but when Castro took over, he hated imperialism, and a lot of people didn't understand he was a communist. Maybe they missed the signals on him, that they thought, before there was a corrupt dictator, Bautista, Florencio Bautista was there, and the mafia pretty much was paying payouts and bribing Bautista to pretty much run the casinos and run the gambling service and run everything they wanted. It was very corrupt. But at the time in the 50s, you had the Meyer Lansky, you had the Santo Traficantes, you had all these big, gangsters. In fact, Meyer Lansky was on the board in the Cuban government, Bautista, to run, casinos and gambling. He even had a paid salary, and he's a gangster. They even called him the accountant, right? But they misunderstood what was going on, a lot of people. And when Castro came in, he was very anti-imperialist, very anti-American, very anti-capitalist guy. And the first thing he does, he starts national and take. And the famous story is that Meyer Lansky, Castro was rolling into Havana, and they had beaten the Bautista. Have you seen the Godfather movies?
Yeah, with Hyman Roth with the casino.
You remember when Bautista, when the Godfather movie, the scene, which is very good, when he knows that Castro won and that the rebels are taking over, he flies out, and that's true. He did. He got up on a plane. He knew it was over because they were going to execute him, because he had his army executing a lot of the rebels during the war. So they were going to execute him, because after Castro took over Havana in January 7th, 59, there were mass executions for those who supported Bautista. So he got out there. And I know this from firsthand from my family experience, and them getting it. It's also a combination of what my family saw and what happened there. So going back to the communists, they don't play. If you're not part of what they like, they're going to nationalize. They'll put you in jail. It's going to end three ways for you. You're either going to end up in jail, you're going to be executed, or you have to flee for it if you're not on the program. And that's what I see in China. I mean, look at the doctors who won when they were doing the right thing, calling out, they were executed, they were killed.
Yeah.
Anybody who stood up to Xi and his regime, because it's a regime. I don't even call him a president. He's a tyrant. He's a genocide tyrant. It's really bad. So how did it end up for Meyer Lansky and Traficantes? I know a lot of you guys like that. So Castro himself becomes, in my mind, the ultimate mob.
Yeah.
These guys in the 50s were king, right? Meyer Lansky put a lot of money in Havana Riviera. He dumped a lot of money. Traficante had Sanssouci. He had a lot of other. These guys the mafia was doing well. I always say the fall of Havana, it's a rise of loss. All that just goes over. It's just a collapse. Castro, your audience can look at the videos back in the 50s. They trash the casinos. They trash everything, nationalize it all, and it's over. The famous scene that Meyer Lansky makes a decision that before Castro rolls in, which was a good one because he was good friends with Bautista. He might have been executed. He flies out to Miami, never to return to Havana, Cuba. Leaves it all behind. Millions of dollars gone. He loses everything. He dies pretty much almost penniless. I think he said he left his family $57,000. I was reading one of my articles. One of the richest guys in Cuba, who was so connected, just like that. Gone. Traficante, on the other hand, who was a mob boss from Tampa, who had roots in sides. I think I can work with Castro. No, it didn't work out well for Castro. You know what Castro does to him? He puts him in jail. He incarcerates one of the most powerful mobsters in the region because he can. And he sat there for, I think, less than a year. And then he got tired of him sitting. In fact, his daughter, while I was reading, was going to get married that summer of 59. Huge wedding. It was a big thing. He couldn't even go. One of the most powerful guys, mobsters, probably in history there, couldn't even go. Just how quickly things changed for these guys. Gone. Yeah. So he got deported, never to return to Cuba either, when they got tired of these guys. So, and then Castro just turned everything around. So at the end, Castro became more powerful than these guys because now he had a military, he had the police, and he had the island, and he became a tyrant. So this is what you get with these communists. They're not here to help people. They call themselves, the Robin Hood. They take from the rich and give to the poor. No, they take from everybody.
Take from the poor as well.
Everybody stays poor. Yeah, you're right. Everybody stays poor, and they oppress everybody. And if you open your mouth, bad things happen. You better go with the program. That's a lesson I've seen and learned, and my family suffered a lot. But one thing they can't, I say in other places, you can't ever take away from your education. You have your education, you can adjust, and they did, and that's what you have to do. You have to, learn a new culture, whatever it takes. And I was fortunate enough to be born in this great country, the United States, and I've been pretty successful and, can't pass it on. But like anything else, democracy is very fragile. And we saw some hiccup after last election, which shocked me personally. What you had these guys storm the Capitol building, chanting, "Let's hang Mike Pence."
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I've seen
that's all I can say. That's just crazy stuff. What else can you say about things like that? I hope he doesn't run. That's all I can say. I think it's over for Biden, because I think he's just doesn't have the faculty. I think he's got too old and so many different issues. I wrote a book about that. Joe Biden one and done. But I just hope we have fresh blood, new people, and he just goes. And he may be indicted. It seems things are not going well from these hearings in Congress.
Yeah.
And he could end up being at the end. Remember they said they chanted "lock her up" to Hillary Clinton. All these, he might be locked. They might be chanting that to him, and he'll be probably maybe the first former president to be incarcerated if he lives on, because his health issue is also an issue. He's almost 80, so he's another guy and he's overweight, so he doesn't eat well too. He likes eating a lot of fast food.
Yeah,
not good for that guy. Not good for him at all. So that's a little bit of American politics there too. But it's America is an interesting nation, no doubt about it. There's a lot of things going on here, and politics is as crazy. I don't know if it's that crazy in Australia, but
not the same as there. Yeah.
No, America has a lot of things. It's interesting, no doubt.
Yeah, it's always something to talk about. It's crazy. It's always in the news here. There's always information on it to read about, and it just continues to surprise you, like all the different stuff.
Yeah, I'm just glad we don't live as close to China. China to me is the big problem for you guys. They don't like you guys. They don't like that we're allies. They don't like that you stand up. They don't like democracy. They don't like any of that. That's why you see Putin, Xi Jinping become allies. These are two thugs.
Yeah.
The two criminal thugs, and that's all he is. Putin now has shown his true colors, what he is. I wrote a book about it before all this happened, called Putin's Tyranny, and just disgusting what he's been doing for years.
Yeah.
Abusive. It's amazing if you're a dissident, or definitely don't drink hot tea if you're a dissident in Russia, right?
Yeah.
You get poisoned.
Yeah.
You get poisoned. If you're a reporter, or if you criticize him at all, I didn't realize when I started research how many reporters accidentally slipped and fell through an open window.
Yeah.
I counted 15 times. 15 times, and these guys were all very critical of Putin. All of them very critical, and they all slipped, and there happened to be an open window. And one story was there was a bathtub that one guy was moving. Oh man, and the window had to be open, and up he went 15th floor. And these guys tell these stories with straight face.
That's insane.
Murder. No, that's how he's a thug. He's a criminal. And then he has that $1 billion palace on the Black Sea.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if you've seen that video. That's everybody should look at that video, and you should see what's going on. It's grotesque. These guys were raised communists, but they're not communists at all.
Yeah,
none of these guys are. These guys are all hypocrites. They steal everything for themselves. They use their people to get whatever they need, and they take it all for themselves. From Maduro, North Korea, is another perfect example. The whole family, corrupt, dirty. And shooting all these crazy missiles, which can be a problem for everybody. I wrote a book on that one too. Kim Jong-un. It's really shows the hypocrisy of communists around the world. And China's the biggest one. China's the biggest. And there's no way, and I said it in my other book, that the Beijing should have hosted two Olympics, a summer and a winter. And look how disastrous how they treated the people in their own country. Why would IOC reward a country like that, their National Olympic Committee? Because they're corrupt. I hate to say it.
Yeah, money.
What? Why would you do that? I mean, they have made some of the worst decisions. And I wrote part of my book about that, The Evil Empire, why they should never host another Olympic Games again. The 36 Hitler Games. Yeah. Horrible decision then. 1980 Soviet Union after invasion of Afghanistan. The Putin game when after he invaded Crimea. Why would you give him the? He's already taken a big chunk then back in 2014, and you give him the Olympics. You didn't take it away from them. Yeah, ridiculous. And then twice now, Beijing.
Yeah, money.
I
was just thinking the same thing before with Hitler. Yeah, they did the same thing.
Why would you? I try to watch. I didn't watch it once. I protested, and I used to love the Olympics growing up, but I just can't watch it. Yeah. And I feel bad for those athletes because why are you helping China make money? Because that's what they're doing. Yeah, they're making money. And then they oppress their people. Yeah. I'm not going to support a government that's going to oppress their people. That's why I don't like American companies dealing in China. Yeah. And I try not to deal with them because these are bad people. These are bad things. And you see how these people disappear. They die. They live hard. and then they have the human rights abuse, atrocious. So you guys know, you guys see closer than we do how bad things are over there in China. And they probably have nuclear submarines very close to you guys, because I saw the pictures. Yeah, they do, and they probably have close to us, just like the Russians do. And we have scary times. I mean, are we on the verge of my books there? World War III.
Yeah,
China. I mean, they've said it clearly. Xi Jinping and Putin. They want to change. They don't like the U.S. being number one.
No.
They would like to knock us off. You can't have these guys because they're tyrants. The world will go sink in a bad situation. If these two win, just like Hitler in Japan, this is history repeating itself again. They're trying to join forces, but this time it's worse because they both have nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
it'd be like a Mad Max. You know, remember the movie Mad Max?
Yeah.
Try to survive that, huh?
Post
nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
That's what I hate to say it, predictions. People predicted that's going to be the future of the world.
Yeah, I think something big is coming.
I think so. Putin's not going to handle well being defeated like this. He's been humiliated.
Yeah,
running Ukraine. I mean, the
I
U.S.
thought he would have taken it easier, but been a struggle for him.
He's not happy. No, the Ukrainians show they have a lot of fight. I'm very impressed with Zelensky as a president. He stood in there and he got the U.S. to help a lot. We pumped. I think we spent over $60 billion and counting, giving aid to the Ukrainians, right? And a lot of Ukrainians who left are coming back, which is great. And I hope at the end they get all their land, which they deserve. And these people suffered. I mean, he's a war criminal. Their executions, and I'm hoping he gets tried in The Hague International Criminal Court for what he's done. That's what he is. I mean, if he doesn't get killed by his own people.
Yeah, I think that's what'll end up happening.
Yeah, maybe he'll drink some hot tea too.
Yeah, well, it does happen there, or fall out the window.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
We just said who's the most violent criminal organization? Is right. Just going back to the cartels, would they be the most sophisticated and structured, or does that go to someone else?
Yeah, I agree. They're the most sophisticated, the most structured. I mean, more structured. I mean, Yakuza seemed more structured, and they did a lot of things while I was researching. They were involved in a lot of white collar, but so same in the cartels. So I mean, they're big time money launderers. Also, they're not just doing drug trafficking. I mean, they're involved in extortion schemes. They're involved in corruption schemes. They're bribing everybody. They're involved in everything. Yakuza, it's a lot smaller. Nothing compared to these guys. Start early. They buy everybody. I put them at the top of the food chain. As of right now, I put the Mexican cartels at the top of the food chain. And then they're using the soldiers, the street gang, to help push their product across. But I see these guys the most violent, brutal, ruthless, bloodthirsty crime syndicate. Right? They're the big dog.
Are they the hardest to flip? Like turn on each other as well? Do they stay more loyal to their own? Like
I would say in the U.S. we can do more. Mexico, they're corrupt. Yeah. That's another problem. Is that from the top to the bottom, everybody's corrupt, so they're not gonna flip anybody. Yeah. The police are part of the cartel. Yeah. They're with them. They're buying them. They do the heavy lift. Hey, whatever needs to be done, they do it, and they're part of it. That's why it's a fall. It's a failed state. People see it's a failed state. It's gonna be like very similar to Somalia, where you have the drug lords running the region, and the government's irrelevant. And that's so sad what's happening. And that's our name. That's what we have to build that wall. We have to finish it, because a collapse in Mexico will just be a mass exodus. It's unprecedented that we're going to see coming through. So we have to stop, because unfortunately this guy is a socialist, Lopez Obrador, and he's weak. And these guys, I think, have already all the way to the top. So you remember Felipe Calderon? He went to war with the cartels, and Mexico was on fire. He thinks, this strategy is going to work. No, they're just going to take over. Yeah, that's it. In my opinion, that's not going to work. And not letting the U.S. really do the operations like they're supposed to, working hand in hand, it's a disaster. And removing a diplomatic community, that's not good. I'm not going.
Is that why they don't send the army in and clean it up? Is it because the government's so corrupt as well?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's bad news. And the police is worse. They have the army, they go in there. But these guys are just as well armed. A lot of these, I mean, they have high weaponry, and they go to war with these guys, and they got more money. So it's not a good situation. And you want to have a president that will support that. Really, you have to clean house. You have to go martial law, in my opinion. You have to be in the military, right? And you got to go to war. You got to regain your nation. If you don't regain your nation, like a lot of people said, that's what happened in our country. Back in the 1920s, in certain cities, like Chicago, New York, especially Chicago. Capone and the outfit ran Chicago. They had a lot from the mayor to and did a lot of digging for police officers, until the federal government with Herbert Hoover, with one of the came up to say, we need to do something. They came up with the Untouchable task force, outsiders to attack from within, because the guys within were not. So maybe that's something Mexico needs to do. Bring outsiders in, untouchable. But if you don't have untouchables, then it's house of cards. It's going to fall.
Yeah, can't win unless you do something.
Bad news. People need to look at. If they want to see how bad things are in Mexico, there's so many videos out there appalling, shocking. You look out there and you're saying, I wouldn't even want to visit Mexico.
No.
I used to visit years ago, Cancun and other places. I wouldn't step in now because even the safe zones are not safe anymore.
And how's the new technology affecting like criminal organizations around the world today? Are they taking, is it like two sides of it? Are they taking advantage of everything, or are they losing the fight against technology, cameras and surveillance that the government has and everything, or does it not work?
You mean Mexican or the U.S.?
Both.
Mexico. It just goes back to corruption again.
Yeah.
If they want, U.S. is a great ally. We used to work well together. This guy doesn't want anything to do with that. He feels like, closing your eyes and hope it goes away type strategy. It's not going to work. U.S. we use a lot of technology. Yeah, no doubt about that. We're more effective. We are more cutting edge things you have to do. Obviously, you have a lot of tools you're exposed. You got to use disposal, right? Go up on their phones. T3 wiretaps, video. Search. You got to do everything, all the tools in your box. You got to against these, and we're good at it, and we do that. But not in Mexico, and not in Central America, and now you see South America, and even Colombia now elected a communist. So you got two now. You got one dictator, and a communist. Things don't look good for South America. Yeah. I mean, Brazil has a lot of problems happening now with gang, drug trafficking. Ecuador, it's just Peru is another one. Things are looking from Mexico on the way down. It's not looking good, and it's not looking good. So that's what you're seeing. Even Honduran former president Hernandez got extradited to the U.S. for being a major drug trafficker. He used his military to protect the drug loads. You should read about that guy, Hernandez. Yeah. He's looking now. He's been extradited to the U.S. He had initial appearance. That guy is something. I mean, this is what you're dealing with. Massive corrupt people. I don't think people realize how bad things are. Things are really bad and corrupt. Worst we've ever seen. It could be that bad, but the hemisphere is really, it's been saturated with so much drugs and corruption that I think it will take, you have to have like untouchables to come in and clean house and not be corrupted, because these people are all corrupt.
It makes you wonder how high it goes when they don't do something like that. It's like, hey, how come you aren't, cleaning this up?
No, they're dirty. So, Australia. But, I think New Zealand, I think it looks not so bad either. So you got those two. I mean, they have the other issues going on, but Asia has a lot of corruption too. Yeah. I mean, so you're in a kind of an interesting little realm there, especially with the Chinese, and you have. I mean, Japan is a good ally of the U.S., but they're having some issues also dealing with China. And then you have North Korea there also. And then you have corruption, all these other nations, Indonesia, Malaysia. I mean, you see some of these stories coming out. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the corruption place. I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you, it doesn't look as getting better.
Yeah.
Things aren't getting better. I hate to say it. My experience has been things are getting only worse. And if drugs, addiction around the world is not dealt with, this is where we're going. And it's going to be corruption, violence, and more. If you legalize it, are we going to legalize all the drugs in the world?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's a country of addicts.
Yeah, it'll just be. Is that? Do you reckon that's where they tried to sort of clean up a bit, legalizing marijuana? They're trying to take a little bit of control.
Yeah, I think marijuana, because it has medical. There's side effects that's help for medical conditions, glaucoma and other things, and people have cancer. They say they can't eat well, so it opens up their appetite. Right. Yeah. So some medical use. Okay. That's great. But it's not that people abuse it, but I think people are okay with maybe marijuana. Remember, alcohol was illegal for many years, right? Prohibition.
Yeah.
And then they had that pretty much stopped those guys. You legalized it and you took a lot of the profit away from them. Yeah. Bootlegging was huge in America.
Wasn't the Kennedys involved with that as well?
Yeah. All that stuff I hear. I mean, I don't know. But what you read about, right?
Yeah.
That's how they made their money. Right.
Crazy.
Well, that's what made Al Capone. No doubt about that. Yeah. He was the king of bootlegger, and all these guys that came after him. And then it stopped. Then it said, okay, people can drink, we're gonna smoke now. Maybe we can smoke weed. Yeah. But I think cocaine, heroin too. The only other thing could be if you're an addict, they can come get their treatment, what they need.
Yeah.
But that's what they have to do. But it's not happening. Corruption, too much money. If that goes away, though, things change immediately.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Just look up Hernandez. What a corrupt former president of out there in Honduras. Unbelievable. He's been extradited. Maduro, he's been indicted, and what didn't say well was he's been indicted. It was under Trump administration, right? A narco-terrorist dictator dealing with terrorists, the FARC. He's also dealing with as a drug trafficker, money laundering. His whole family. Corrupt. Maduro stole the election. He shouldn't be in Venezuela, right? He should be in jail. Yeah. Right? He's out there, and Biden then sends a team out there because the Saudis. That's another doozy I can talk about. That's another book of mine, Blood, Money, and Oil: The Corrupt Saudi Regime of Mohammed bin Salman. We're not doing enough oil to lower the oil prices, because here in the U.S., I don't know about you guys, it's kind of crazy out here.
Yeah.
California is almost $10 a gallon. I'm not sure what you guys are paying out there.
It's getting higher, but that's another thing I wanted to mention to you. But before all that happened, I was following like a couple of entrepreneurs, or like big names on YouTube and stuff. Like, I don't know if you heard Patrick Bet David or whatever. Guys like him were talking about these gas prices and stuff before the war happened. It's like, how do all these rich people know these things are going to happen? Like, they just he was saying $10, and that was a long time ago, and now it's happening.
It's happening. Yeah, it's like inflation was coming hard, and a lot of mistakes happened in the Biden administration. We have the worst inflation in 40 years. The worst inflation in 40 years. So he then sees the Saudis aren't pumping enough oil. OPEC's not pumping enough oil. How do you go? I mean, they have a award for Maduro's arrest of like $20 million, $15 million. Any information that leads to his arrest can get $15 million. Well, heck, I know where he's at. He's in the palace right in Caracas. Well, why don't you come and give me an award for $15 million? And he sends a team out there to negotiate, because they used to be an OPEC nation. And then with sanctions, they got shut down because of all this stuff he's doing and dissidents and everything else, human rights abuse. How can you send people out there where he's wanted and needs to be extradited for federal charges? So that was a big problem. They said, what's going on here? I mean, like, I don't know if people remember what happened with Manuel Noriega back in Panama in the late 80s, the same thing. He was extradited and brought in. He changed completely. In Panama, really improved itself for a while. Of course, they're back to some corruption and everything else. My point is, you can't give Maduro a lifelong and have him start pumping oil again, because you're going to keep that Venezuela oppressed for a year. And that's part of the corruption also in Saudi Arabia with the Saudis. That's another corrupt regime out there with Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince. When he became crown prince, he was called by media outlets the most dangerous man in the world. He said he just rode his dad's coattails to become his dad was King Salman. He became the crown prince. And recently, they had one of the biggest mass executions in Saudi history, 81 just recently, if you want to look it up. And you know how they execute people in Saudi Arabia? Beheadings. 81 beheadings in one day, the most ever in modern Saudi, and most of them were minorities and dissident. And there's no real due process. There's no real good institutions out there, democratic institutions in Saudi Arabia. It's families that run this country, and they oppress the people, and they run the oil. So, and it's amazing how many accidents happen within the Saudi family, because they fight a lot. Strange car accident, really strange airplane accidents out there. I mean, you start looking at some of this stuff, these guys clamp down. These aren't real good royals. These are like royal family you think of. These are gangsters. These are true gangsters. They are running OPEC, and they're hurting us because they can easily pump up the oil production, and we're not paying this kind of money. They're gangs. They're keeping a lot of money to oppress us. Just like communists, they're gangsters. These are gangs. And that's what my book's about, showing the injustices around the world. And even my own agency had problems, but you have organized crime, tyrant, corrupt families like these, and they're interesting reads. I think people should see what kind of gangsters are really pumping and suppressing the oil price. But he's bad. Bad news. One perfect example, excuse me, was the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Not sure, he was a Washington Post columnist in the United States. He's Saudi, but he was a big critic. He was an editor out there. He was a reporter. He wrote books. He was a big author, but a big critic. He used to actually work for the family, but then fell up after what he saw was going on. But he has to leave. Right? So next time comes to the United States. He works for Washington Post. He continues. He has to go to Istanbul, Turkey, with his fiance, and she's Turkish, I believe, and they have to get some paper, right? And I'll tell you a quick story here. He goes and talks. He has to go to the embassy in Turkey, Saudi, in Istanbul, and they gave him a runaround saying, well, the paperwork you need will be back in a week. So when do you come back a week? They have to be a Saudi agent who flies to Riyadh, allegedly tells the boss what's going on. He says, because the Saudis are famous for their Tiger Squad, which is like a hit squad that they have. Mafia, pretty much a mafia hit squad. They organized this mafia hit squad to go back and set up in them. Unbeknownst to them, Turkish government had the embassy wide. Everything's so. I encourage people to go in there and look at the transcripts, because that was leaked to the CIA, who then leaked it to the media. What happened? So Khashoggi, they have a whole team in there, and they show the video of the cameras. The BBC does a great job piecing this together, which I looked at it, which is phenomenal. And I did also some research on this. They even have a lookalike, which is important. Remember that they even brought a guy who looked just like. So he comes into the embassy to get paperwork. His wife or fiance stays outside. He gives her his phones. He goes inside, and the first thing you can hear, according to the transcript, and this is Arabic, it got translated. It's like, you can't do this. I got people waiting for me outside. You can't do this. And he goes, then you hear, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe 3 times. And then you hear the sound of assault. They dismembered him. They killed him, dismembered him, and then burned the body. That's how corrupt that regime was and what they did to him. You don't do something like that unless it comes from orders from the top, because they control everything, because they didn't like him, because he was a critic and made him look bad. And these are the kind of people we buy our oil from, right?
Yeah.
So they had this lookalike go outside, walk around, go on a taxi, pretend everything was fine. But the funny thing is, in the video, the lookalike, yeah, put his clothes on, but he kept his old shoes on. So you see him come back out with his old shoes. It's very comical. It's like these knuckleheads couldn't even do this right. They made a lot of mistakes. In the recording, you can even hear you have them translated about these guys, the agents calling back saying, "Hey, boss, done. It's done." So they're following order, and this is the kind of people. That's right. Biden hadn't really met with MBS yet until he's going to do it now. But amazing. I mean, these guys are criminals.
Yeah.
These are criminals. This is what we're doing around the world with criminals.
Yeah, and it's crazy how far they reach.
Gangsters. They're gangsters. They're thugs. They're people that don't represent our moral value.
Yeah.
And yet this is what we have to deal with society. And this is what hopefully your audience can see around the world. It's bad news here, but it's worse around the world. It's bad. We've got things here. It's if you're a Saudi dissident, it's not good for you. If you're in Venezuela, it's not good for you. If you're in North Korea, you're a dissident. It's not good. If you're in Cuba, it's not good for you. If you're in communist China, it's not good for you. I mean, we can go almost all over the world, and it's bad. It's bad for the average person. Bad, bad, bad. So interesting things. But I think your audience might like some of the books. If you like some of those stories I told, there are a lot more detail in my books. They're short reads, but they're good reads. I think they're fun. And you'll learn, and then you can do more of a deeper dive into a certain topic you want to read about. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll link your books too. That's
okay.
So much knowledge there. I'm excited.
Awesome.
I was gonna ask you what you're like when you're doing the undercover work.
Yeah.
What would be an example of your starting your day? You know, like, were you just constantly stressed, or did you find ways to try and mellow out? You know, what was your start to finish day?
Yeah, no, that's good. You know, when you're doing a lot of deals, like again, I was also the case agent, so you got a lot of other stresses too. You got to deal with. You got to do operational plans, right? Because if you're going to do anything, first you got to plan it, you got to brief it, you got to get all that. So that kind of keeps you busy, right? And then you want to make sure deal goes smoothly with these guys. So I always was positive, but in the back of your head, you always got to prepare yourself in case something can go bad. Right? You know, what happens if it doesn't happen, or this guy tries to rob you, or what have you. But I always try to be positive, get everything straight. But because I was so busy a lot of times doing other things, those kind of ideas didn't always creep in. So you're at the moment, you're ready, do it, and you get back and you do your report. So once you get everything done, you do conversations, you know. That's why it's not for everybody, but if you have a knack and you're prepared for your role and you practice and you perceive, you know, what happens, this happens, what do I do then? You have to get all that ready in your head. It works out good, but it's interesting work. I mean, I enjoyed it because, you know, I grew up, like I said, I grew up in South Florida, went to Catholic schools, right?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know anything really about this, but you learn it quickly and you fool these guys in their environment, which I found fascinating.
Yeah.
You know,
like we ever there going off, any of these guys suspect me I'm dead.
No one ever told me, hey, I thought you were, because I didn't, obviously I don't speak like this. I speak with an accent and my English is broken, and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Come like a guy who came from Cuba for 10 years and he said, this guy can't even speak English. What the hell? He can't be an agent, right?
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty cool.
It's fun times. I also enjoy the weapons training too.
Yeah.
You know, ATF, you know, there's a saying for ATF, you know, alcohol. It's a Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives in the Department of Justice. I say what used to be Treasury. The B and the E are silent. It's just ATF, right? And it's a small A because ATF back in the day used to do a lot of alcohol cases, but very little.
Yeah.
The T, tobacco, is also small because you know tobacco diversion cases really don't do a lot of those either. Huge F for sure for firearms.
Yeah.
And a medium E for explosives.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Did you have a lot to do with explosives, or was mainly
some of these guys, you know, have to deal with pipe bombs, and you know they put some stuff like that together, and we come across quite a few of those other devices. But yeah, the big thing was obviously the fire.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big part right there with ATF. Yeah, it's interesting agency. You know, you deal with these kind of criminals. At least it wasn't a white collar. You know, some agencies, it's all, you know, white collar, and you know, maybe IRS or some, you know, with guys in the FBI. You know, it wasn't. So we did a lot of weapons training, which was pretty cool. So I wasn't real versed until I got in there. I mean, I always shot handguns and stuff, but you know, you're trained with shotguns, you're trained with rifles, you're trained with you know, 9mm, 40mm handguns. So I thought that was pretty cool. I did like that part of it. I think it's a noble profession. It's done right. You know, you're doing good work. You know, if you do survive, knock on wood. Yep, you have a pension. You got a pension, and you can do other things, and then you can talk to cool people around the world on podcast shows and YouTube shows, and write a lot of books, right? And talk about it. That's
awesome.
I love this, man. I've been doing this for a few months now, and this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I was excited to talk to you, man. Yeah, it's so cool. You got a good story. I'm gonna try and get through all your books as fast as I can, man. It's awesome.
Oh, I appreciate it. Have you read a few of my books?
I'm on to the autobiography one.
Oh, you did?
I haven't finished it yet. I'm in the
Okay.
process, but
Oh, great.
I want to start on the other ones. I was going to ask you what your thoughts on doing one. Have you done one about like the Cambodia, Pol Pot, that era? Would you ever do
Mm.
one around that time? I'd love to hear what your thoughts were on,
Yeah,
that
the
sort
Killing
of.
Fields. That was
Yeah,
a crazy movie. Yeah, I remember that
yeah,
movie. Communists again going bad.
yeah,
They again, it's another history of the Khmer Rouge, right?
yeah, yeah. I just recently saw the movie, so I thought I'd ask you. What?
Yeah, no, I should do a book about that too. No, that's horrible, man. It's just people get warped, right? With
Yeah,
communism, it's an extremism. It's like fascism. Like Hitler was also an extremist, right?
yeah,
It's like lessons learned. I hope your audience can appreciate extremism on both sides.
yeah,
It's bad news.
yeah,
Bad news for all of us. Putin is a madman. Xi Jinping is right behind him. We're maybe on the verge of World War III, but yeah, no, that's horrible. That was atrocious. He wanted to just in his mind bring everybody to like they were like 13 years old, and it's like
yeah,
anti-education, anti-everything, destroy any. What the heck, man? It's just demented craziness.
yeah,
Let people live their lives. That's what freedom's about, right?
yeah,
We want people to have, within me, but let people make decisions. And when the government controls, that's what you want to say, you know what? That's just, horrible. In Vietnam,
yeah.
the same thing in Vietnam. U.S. suffered a lot in Vietnam, but the war there, but we learned a lot about fighting those wars. You gotta have an exit plan. Can't stay forever. Unfortunately, we didn't learn that too well in Afghanistan. I think a
Yeah,
lesson was forgotten about that one. But and again, we were winning that war. It just was a matter of how much longer we're going to stay here. But
yeah,
the exit was sloppy,
yeah,
messy. There's no way you can let the Taliban do security for you, an enemy for 20 years, and not expect something like that to happen,
yeah.
where we lost 13 military personnel in that attacking
That,
and dozens of civilians. Crazy. That's why you say, no, this is an agreement. We were meeting. They said, we have to exit all our Americans,
yeah,
anybody who's been assisting us out of Kabul. He said, you can't take Kabul. If you do, we're going to go back to where we were before. But to let them come in like that and then have them help with that was insane. Very, very poor. That didn't sit well with a lot of people. And that's, I think, I hate to say with Biden, it just started falling from there. It
yeah.
just got bad, worse.
I couldn't believe it was real news when I was reading it.
I saw those pictures.
Yeah,
It was the worst exit plan I think ever. It compared to the fall of Saigon, but we won. We owned Afghanistan. Gave up. We said enough of this. How much more are we going to spend here? But I
yeah,
feel bad because the poor women and children,
yeah,
minorities. Now they're going to go back to what the Taliban used to do. I mean, they've had 20 years of education improvement in their life, doing things, and now you've seen the pictures what they want to do. Now women can't go past a third education. It's going back to they want to control them, hurt them, everything what they used to be before. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen out there.
yes. It's a crazy world, man. It's
It is.
yeah,
It is a crazy world. It is a crazy. I write about that in my book. Joe Biden one and done.
yeah,
Joe Biden one and done. In the U.S., we're going to have a midterm election coming up, right? And it's going to be a rout for the Republicans. Going to take the House again. It's going to be bye bye to Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and they'll probably take the Senate. And Joe Biden really is going to he's going to be a lame duck. And so what 2024 going to bring? He wouldn't even run for office. Between health, he's become very unpopular even within his own party.
yeah,
I don't know if your audience knows the Democrat Party is very divided between the socialists, Bernie Sanders, AOC, right?
yeah,
And then you have the moderates like himself.
yeah,
So they don't like it. So and the Republicans are strong. So I think he's made some. It's just a list of bad.
yeah.
Um,
To me,
and he has
looking,
health issues.
yeah. Was it just like, okay, we just got to get rid of Trump. Let's just put him in there. Do you reckon that was what happened?
No, he won the election.
Yeah, okay.
The only one I think because even Attorney General Barr resigned, right? Guy
Yeah,
he appointed said, "There's nothing here.
yeah,
You're trying. What are you doing?"
yeah,
I think he'll be indicted.
yeah,
I hope he's indicted. He seems like he's a corrupt guy. His whole family. It's just disgraceful. And the way he didn't even call Mike. He was
yeah,
concerned about him. They came this close of the mob getting to him with Secret Service pulling him out, and he's not concerned about his safety. The guy was a
yeah,
loyal. The guy was decent to him. And
yeah.
this is how he treats people the guy has nothing. To me, he's the worst of the worst.
Just
He's probably
use
the
and
worst president.
abuse.
Yeah, he's probably the worst president in U.S. history. Maybe there with Nixon. Nixon was there too. He was forced to resign. And I think Trump's there too. And maybe he will do time. I don't think Biden will pardon.
You don't
You
think?
know,
Yeah,
Nixon got lucky with Ford to pardon him.
yeah,
I don't think Biden will do the same if he's there. Now, if Biden loses 2024 and DeSantis is there, which I think he has a good chance, governor of Florida, to beat Biden, maybe he will pardon. That's politics, isn't it?
yeah. Anything could
Crazy.
happen.
anything happens. Crazy.
It's something I always ask everyone I have on. What's your favorite 3 movies of all time? Like any genre. It's your top
Oh wow,
3.
my favorite 3 movies. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of them. Especially, I like The Untouchables.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a
Elliot
great
Ness.
movie there. Yeah, with Robert De Niro and Kevin
Yeah.
Costner.
Yeah.
That kind of I would have to say influenced me a little bit
Wow.
because I really loved that movie, and I loved how they brought down Al Capone. Right. When the
Yeah.
public enemy number one of the biggest gangsters in American history,
Yeah.
and how persistence and how you have to be you have to be clean. You cannot be corruptible. Right. Untouchable in a times that were difficult, and I
I used to
respect
watch
that.
that
And that's
movie all
based
the
on true
time.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to respect that because that really happened.
Yeah.
And they brought him in outside to help take down the corrupt Chicago regime, the outfit. So yeah, that's a great movie, especially your fans who like organized crime. If you haven't
Yeah.
seen that one, you gotta see The Untouchables. That's especially that scene when with the baby carriage coming down and the shootout.
He's running
In the
down
train
Kevin
station.
Costner.
Yeah, in the train station.
Yeah.
Again, the bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Right. That made the case against Capone. That's as good as it gets, right?
Yeah.
Especially with my field.
Yeah. And Sean Connery in there was awesome too.
Oh gosh, and he just passed away.
Yeah.
James, 90 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
he had a great life. I mean, what he does some great. Yeah, maybe some of the James Bond movies. I love some of his stuff too. Dr.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Goldfinger.
Yeah.
Those are some pretty good movies right there, right?
Yeah. I love James Bond. I haven't seen the newest ones, but I've always watched the
Daniel
older
Craig.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel Craig. Yeah, he's done some good ones too.
Yeah.
So those are some good ones there for sure. Hunt for Red October.
Yeah. That was a great one.
Especially with things going on the way they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if your fans and your audience could read also Tom Clancy novels,
Yeah.
the Cardinal and the Kremlin and the Rising, Red Storm Rising, very good books, very similar. And it was compared what Tom Clancy wrote back in the 80s with Red Storm Rising, where then the Soviet Union. I'll tell you a quick story. Then the Soviet Union comes up with a red flag false operation, right? Today it's denazification. You know how Putin pretty much told the biggest lie of this century to justify a war. And Zelensky, he's Jewish. His family was executed by Nazis. What denazification are you talking about? You're lying to invade a sovereign nation, to take back in your mind, your crazy mind of yours. You want to be a czar. He's not a communist. He's here to take it for himself because he thinks he's some crazy. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So he talks about this in his book. It's fictitious, right?
Yeah.
But they come up with a false flag operation to invade. Then you had Germany split, right? You have West Germany and East Germany. They're in East Germany. They want to take over Berlin, the whole thing, right? So they justify a false operation to take over. Very similar to what's going on here. But in the story, of course, it ends up like, they topple the regime, Soviet Union, and everything ends up in a happy ending. I think similarly, we have to hopefully the same thing happens with Putin, where he goes goodbye. But is it going to be something better or worse?
Yeah.
I hope for Russians' sake that they can have a true democracy
and
they can have something better than what they have now, because what they've had garbage.
Yeah,
There's
for
no
a
doubt
long
about
time
that.
too.
They've had him for 20 some years, and Yeltsin was a little better, but he was corrupt too. And of course, before that, you had the communists. So I just hope the Russian people can have something a lot better, something similar to what we have: true freedom, free election. Because we are very fortunate. Most places around the world, Thomas, don't have what we. And democracy is a fragile thing. You got to protect it, because look how quickly it turns bad.
Yeah,
I remember Thomas Jefferson said we're just one generation from going back, to the age of the barbarians, right?
Yeah,
we can lose it just like that, because remember, we start as an empty slate. Bad news happens really quick. Bad news can really happen, and I hate all the conspiracy brainwashing that's going on. It really it freaks me out, because do people really believe this?
I can't believe it. Yeah, but some people I know who are really educated and start believing it.
The election was not stolen.
Yeah,
the election was not stolen.
Yeah.
No, he was a horrible president.
Yeah.
Maybe if he didn't keep his mouth, if he didn't run his mouth so much, and he tweeted some of the most ridiculous things, so unpresidential, unacceptable. I mean, that's what hurt him. I mean, that's what he had. The only person I think that Biden can beat, I put in my book, is Trump. Because the same forces that came together in 2020 will come together now, which are the moderates, the libertarians, and to beat him. Because it's just, we can't have that guy. He was an embarrassment. He was not prepared. He was so unprepared for the job. It was unbelievable. I used to can't believe anybody vote for that. It's scary. That's the thing in democracy. You have to be educated, prepared, because you elect the wrong people. Elections matter, right?
Yeah.
And look what happened.
Yeah, it can change really quick.
Right?
Yeah, just going back to the movies. First was that
Untouchables.
Untouchables.
Right?
Yep.
That was good. I mentioned some of the James Bond. I love the James Bond movies, man. They're awesome. I grew up watching that. It also inspired me to go along, because I just love, I kind of see myself, because, lots of agents, we have to be dressed up for suits and all that, right?
Yeah.
I like training weapons and everything else. I just love those James Bond movies. They're just awesome.
Yeah.
And I like them all. I like Roger Moore too. I thought he was a good James Bond too. I think he was good. Sean Connery was good. Daniel Craig was awesome. You know, they've had some real good ones throughout the years. So yeah, big fan of the Bond movie. Big fan of you know, the Mafia movies too. Never was a great fan of The Godfather. I watched it here and there. But I do like some of the other law enforcement genre movies, right? So those are always cool. Any time of political thrillers I like also. Which ones do you like?
Of all time, probably one would be It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas movie.
Yeah, I see that during Christmas time. Yeah, that's great.
I watch that every Christmas. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I like Alfred Hitchcock too movies. If you like old time movies, I like Hitchcock movies. You know, they got some good ones. Birds.
I've seen
Psycho,
Birds. Psycho. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are. I mean, you want to talk about classic? I do like classic movies.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy that. Hitchcock, I think, is one of the great directors out there.
Yeah.
When you look at Elizabeth, Lifeboat. I mean, North by Northwest. You have that famous scene with the crop duster coming in.
Yeah,
that's pretty. I mean, it's just some awesome movies. Well done, well directed, no doubt about that. There's something you miss, but I do like also the special effects.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. My next question was going to be, what's your top 3 books? Like, do you have favorite authors who you
Tom
follow?
Clancy, for sure.
Yeah,
I read a lot of Tom Clancy books, which kind of also influenced me again what I like. He's a great author. If anybody has a chance to read his book, he really got into the weeds, you know, dealing with secret ops, CIA operations and stuff like that. I mean, he has a great book. So, you know, Rent for October. Also, I like Clear and Present Danger. That's another good one too. So those are really good books. I like reading a lot of nonfiction. So, you know, because I research a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm researching stuff on the cartels and stuff like that. I want to read the book that came out, Tokyo Vice, that's based on the series that B report. That looks pretty good too on the Yakuza. So, you know, there's a lot of good books out there. You know, I read, of course, other authors who've written books from, you know, ATF or FBI. You know, those are pretty interesting inside books, you know, especially guys. So I like to read a lot in my genre too. But I also enjoy, you know, politics, as you can tell.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I could just talk to you for days. You got so much information. What would be the most accurate movie or book you've seen about law enforcement where you've worked that depicts that?
Oh, the most accurate?
Yeah.
Movie or books? Well, I think the books, obviously, you know, well, we write, a lot of us, we try to be as accurate as we can. What happened? A lot of us have written good books out there. I did like Donnie Brasco.
That's the one thing I had written down that I wanted to talk to you about too that I missed.
That was I enjoyed that movie with Al Pacino. You know, put that in there. That's one of my favorite. I like that movie a lot with Al Pacino and Johnny Depp, right?
Yeah,
he's been in the news a lot, hasn't he?
Yeah, I've got the book on Donnie Brasco. Yeah, The Way of the Wise Guy. He wrote, and it's about him doing his undercover stuff around the world.
Pistone.
Yeah,
Joe Pistone, right?
Yeah,
Joe Pistone. No, I've researched a little bit about it, but the movie I thought was awesome.
Yeah,
you know, you got some of the big heavyweights out there, right?
Yeah.
How about Carlitos Way? That's another good one.
Yeah,
right?
Al Pacino, that was awesome.
Scarface.
Al
Pacino.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Pacino, De Niro. Raging Bull. You talking about movies?
Yeah.
How about Raging Bull with De Niro?
Yeah.
That's one of his best movies, right?
Yeah,
he really gets into character. He is unbelievable. No, I enjoy.
Mean
How about Heat?
Heat, yeah. Al Pacino and De Niro.
Sure, good versus evil there.
Yeah,
those are great. Those are great movies. Looking back, and so yeah, those I really enjoyed watching those. Accurate, you know, movies are tricky because you know obviously they need to also entertain, right?
Yeah.
So they have to embellish a little bit, but there's always elements in there in all those movies how things happen, and then they just embellish. You know, just like anything, like watching Jaws, right?
Yeah.
There's always that they'll have to exaggerate how they kill the shark, right?
Yeah.
We need a bigger boat.
Yeah, classic.
That's a classic, man.
Yeah.
But they bring true elements, man, right? They talk about the U.S. Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I only just watched that recently. It's scary.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I saw a documentary about that. That's unbelievable. Man, tiger sharks are brutal.
Yeah.
In the Pacific like that.
Isn't the biggest shark attack in history recorded?
Imagine in the middle of the night and your fellow sailors getting devoured by sharks.
Yeah. I forget who's in the movie. I just recently watched it. There's a movie on it and it just gave me chills.
No, it is. But interesting things out there. All this stuff is out there.
Yep.
Yeah, well, so yeah, you get exaggeration and embellishment. But I think if you read the nonfiction stuff, a lot of the agents who've written books,
Yeah.
I think you get a good idea. Wambach, I don't know if you read any of his stuff.
No,
Yeah,
check it out.
he's written. I remember I had read some of his books. What was one of his books called? Was it The Choir Practice and the Onion Fields? Maybe I have to double check that. Wambach is the name, I think. He was a former LAPD. I'm not sure if it's LAPD or what police department, but he talked about some experience and stuff. So interesting reads. All right,
Yeah.
it's a lot of stuff out there. If you want to catch more about the American experience, there's a lot of stuff out there. European experience. I mean, I think you go to nonfiction and try read people who lived it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, who've done the job. Right.
Straight to the
Because you have a
source.
journalist, maybe they don't get it right, because they didn't live it, they didn't experience it. So read the
Yeah.
guys who've done the job, and I think I give a lot of good details about what I did.
Yeah.
It's not a super long book. I'm over 20,000 words, but it's a good read. It's
Yeah.
detailed enough where you get an idea of what I did, and I think a lot of eight do a good job
Yeah.
in that category. You figure out, okay, that's interesting. It's a dangerous job, no doubt, and thankless job.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it's like, good on you for what you've done, man. Thanks for
Oh, thank you,
fighting
man.
the
I
good
appreciate it.
fight. Like,
Yeah, and I'm glad you're having these shows here, man, and you're giving both sides and
yeah.
talking about stuff like this to help talk to it with your audience.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'd love to hear both sides of the story and let everyone have their say, what they want to talk about, and try and promote everyone together and get good stories out.
Fantastic. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, hopefully you can come on again one day.
For sure. No,
I feel
I
like,
enjoy it. We had a good. It's hard to believe it. We've been on for 2 hours. Went pretty quick.
wow, missed
Yeah,
it.
yeah, no, good stuff.
Cool. Yeah, thanks very much again, man. Appreciate your time.